Welcome back, family. Join us as we hunt the signs in the Mazzaroth for the escape of the bride. This will be 5.1 of Escape of the Bride Decode. Sorry for the cutoff. My computer is having issues and my phone was overloaded. And I'm still unable to do the screen recording for these type of videos. So I'm operating with tools that I have. There's a possibility that these videos are going to cut off around 15-16 minutes. So what I'm going to try to do is present these in smaller segments, and we might have to take this to 5 or 6 parts to get all the details in. So forgive me for the interruption. I ended up having to go and clear out a bunch of my stuff off my phone in order to get it to work. So without any more issues, hopefully we can get this done. So the first thing that we're going to do is catch up with where we left off, and we're going to start presenting the encoded messages that we're seeing in the Mazzaroth. And so the first thing that we're going to do is go here to Stellarium, and we're going to get into the moon, and where the moon is at for these coming signs. And as most of you know from the last videos that we were looking at for the Escape of the Bride, where we're looking at a high watch period of the 26th and 27th, where the moon was in the full moon was in the Silver Gate, and we saw that asteroid Metis, which equals wedding, aligned with the full moon in the hand of Auriga before it passed into the Silver Gate. So it was a very, very important wedding sign. And again, I'm going to ask all of my viewers to go back and watch all of these parts of the Escape of the Bride Decode, because this is all working together. I'm doing this as a segmented message, and you're going to only get part of the message if you only see one part and you miss some of the other parts. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to leave off the signs after the 11th. We're going to focus here on all the signs between what we saw last on the 26th and 27th. And now we're going to continue forward with the journey of the moon and these last signs that we see before the moon enters into Sagittarius with the sun. And these are all part of the story. When I was talking to you last time about my Kaddish culture channel, one of the things that I had learned in deep study is that there's cultural differences. And one of the cultural differences is the way that the actual weddings work compared to what we have in our modern culture. There are some people in Israel and in the Middle East that still hold to these similar customs. So slightly different. But it was in that study of the ancient customs that I was able to match these signs in the stars because they didn't match with my current American understanding of weddings. And so I want to be able to present that to the body and show them how that cultural difference is shown to us in the heavens. One of the things that I learned when I was doing that study is that number one, in our culture, you see that there is essentially just a ring given to the bride, and then they go ahead and plan the wedding, and then the wedding takes place and everybody is there at the wedding for the ceremony. But in the ancient cultures, there was a much deeper process, and there had to have certain things happen in certain time frames for the wedding to even take place. And if those things didn't take place, then everything was null and void. And one of the things that you see with the biblical code is like with Esther. It talks about how in the book of Esther how they were prepared for a year before the wedding, before the king even chose the bride. All of the women were prepared with 6 months of one type of preparation and 6 months of another type of preparation, and that was all preparation for the wedding. And they had to have certain things done in order for that wedding to take place. And then again, even in our culture, you see this. The bride is always brought to the groom. And so a lot of people, when they think about the rapture, they think about Christ coming to get his bride. But that language in the Bible is for a later time when Christ is coming back for his church. There is different language for the escape of the bride and the general rapture of the church. A lot of people have not grasped that difference in the scripture, but there is definitely different encoded message for the rapture compared to the escape of the bride. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to show how these certain encoded messages in the heavens match the scriptures. And we're going to use the scriptures to help to break down these codes because a lot of the people that are looking at the Watchman's information, they're already pretty biblically knowledgeable, and they can easily determine the things based on the scriptures. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the scripture as a witness to the actual witness in the stars. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at this last bit of the journey of the moon, because the moon's the bride. And so we're going to look at this quickly and show how the moon transitions from where we were on the 26th, and we're going to show the rest of this. Today we are at the 6th of January 2024, and I'm doing this at 1600, which is 4 p.m., and it's currently just after 3:30. And so by the time this all gets uploaded, it should be approximately 4 p.m. And so that's why I chose 1600. So we want to show this beginning point live. So here we are. The moon is just about to enter into the temple of Libra, and this can be looked at as a temple. It can also be looked at as an altar. And one of the things that stood out to me was on the 6th here, we're seeing Comet Pan-STARRS. It's C2021 S3 Pan-STARRS because there's multiple different Pan-STARRS. So this is the C2021. It was discovered in 2021. It's the S3 Pan-STARRS. And this one is being shown here in Lupus. And we'll go over the signs of that later, but I want you to see how that comet is marking Lupus. And we'll come back to that in just a bit. But let's go ahead and pan out. We're here focused on the moon, and we're going to pan out, and we're going to see that the moon has already passed Spica, and it's entering into Libra. And what we're going to do is we're going to run forward until our end date of this watch. Now, a lot of people come to these kind of channels. They're just looking for a date, and they're trying to peg it to the rapture. And we're not date picking. We have high watches, but we don't pick dates. These things all have to transpire for the message to get to the body, and that's what we're doing. We are showing you the signs in the heavens, and typically they correlate with the things that are happening on Earth, just as the wise men used those signs to locate where Christ was born. And similarly, we see how Scotty Clark found the Revelation 12 sign for 2017. And we see how since that time, because there was other Mazzaroth watchmen doing work at the same time that Scotty made his discovery, there was probably 10 or 15 really, really good Mazzaroth watchmen that were doing similar work at that exact same time. I was part of one of the groups. And these things were being shown to all of us at that time. And it helped a lot of us, especially with Scotty Clark's find, to understand the Mazzaroth and the signs in the skies in just a little slightly different way. And it helped us to see Scripture in a much deeper relationship with the reader, because we could actually see what we were reading in the heavens. And sometimes that brings everything to life. And that's what we're hoping to do with these videos, is to bring this stuff to life and to show you that these signs that are in the heavens are declaring a message to all of us that it's time to look up, because our redemption is drawing near, and this redemption is tied to this marriage this year. Actually, it started in the spring of 2023, and it looks to be ending completely in the spring of 2024. We don't see any more of the wedding signs whatsoever. I was even thinking that this sign on the 11th was too late. It seemed to have language that was for the left behind. But now I'm seeing other signs that I didn't see before because I wasn't looking. I'm seeing other signs that point to the 11th being a very, very high watch, that actually the 10th through the 12th. And then we also will have another couple more watches after that that seem to be that they could go either way, that they could be a final push for the bride, or they could be messages to the Left Behind church, that they need to buckle up, that they have a specific amount of time to endure. So what we're going to do now is just show that last transition. We're here on the 6th at 4 p.m. The moon is just entering into what we consider the altar. It can also be considered a tabernacle or an altar slash meeting place, like we showed in one of our previous videos for Escape of the Bride Decode. This is where the sun and the moon met, right in the cross bars of the constellation here, and basically in the center of the altar. And that was on November the 13th. If you have Stellarium, you can go pull that up. The sun and the moon were directly in the center of the altar, and that was right after the sun and the moon. Actually, it was like right here. The sun and the moon had the wedding ring eclipse. So we're seeing our signs transition as we go through the Mazzaroth. So we have the 1014 wedding ring eclipse, and that wedding ring was right on the hand of Virgo. And then we see the bride and groom enter into the altar. And now what we're going to do is we're going to watch that last transition. We're going to enter into the 7th here, and the moon, or the bride, is just about to enter into the Scorpio constellation. And if you have watched my videos on the gates and portals, and if you've seen any of the information that I have on the gates and portals, then you'll know that right here is where we enter into that Scorpio gate. And the Scorpio gate is essentially like a key, and it opens the gateways into heaven. Once the sun comes through that Scorpio gateway, then the gate remains open until the sun exits the Golden Gate, which was essentially the Milky Way. It can be measured. Most people don't go into the details of measuring the extent of the Milky Way, but it can be seen if you pull back using your Stellarium. It can be seen all the way just past Antares, and we can see here on Stellarium, if we pull it back, you can see how this whole area here is still clouded, and we can even see some clouding that comes out into here. You can see this is the center of the gate, but there is clouding from that gate that comes all the way over here into essentially the leg of Ophiuchus, the pincher of Scorpio, and then down into the scale of Libra. So this essentially is considered the edge. Sorry, family. That's the edge of the Golden Gate there. And there are many, many signs around the entire planet if you have looked at my community page, I think I've posted 2 things on it now. There's been some discoveries of Göbekli Tepe, and in Turkey there they found not too far from where Noah's Ark was, they found these monuments that seem to be showing this language of the what we call the Scorpio Gate, which is actually just the Golden Gate, but it's pictured as Scorpio because that's essentially like the gatekeeper. Once everything comes through Libra, then we see that portal or that gate. And I believe that was actually shown to us. I believe I did a video upload. You'll have to go look for it, but it was the 107th birthday of, I forgot his name. It's one of the Google Doodles that was for the 107th birthday, and it was the scales where it showed the planets coming through the scales. They made it very apparent that it was planets and not what they said that it was. Those didn't look like elements as much as they look like the sun and the moon to me. So to me, it was an encoded message because they had 144 there. And we all know that we're looking at the 144. And so that to me was an encoded message when it looked like to me that the sun comes through the scales and it doesn't allow this scale to rise. And then all of a sudden the moon comes through, because if you know the Mazzaroth, then you know how fast the sun comes through the Libra constellation compared to the moon. And it matches with what they're showing there in that depiction of his 107th birthday with the scales. It's a Google Doodle. I'm sure many of you have seen it, and if not, you can go look it up. It's a Google Doodle, 107th birthday, and then you will see what I'm talking about. So anyway, I believe that's what they were depicting here, because as soon as the moon makes it through that section of Libra, which is passing the scales, then it enters into this Scorpio gate. And that makes perfect sense because based on Mazzaroth language, that's when the gate would open. And so we see the sun still right on the edge of the Golden Gate on the opposite side. And then here we see, let's pull back up the date so we can see the date here. We see it's going to essentially be at the end of the day. Let's see. Let's pull back up the moon. And let's get this timing. So you're really looking at, we'll just take it to meridian, and we'll say that's the time. So you're looking at 21:15. So it's about, just say between 9 and 10 o'clock on the 7th. That's Pacific Standard Time. We're going to see the moon enter into the Scorpio gate. And this is our earliest point of what I consider escape. It seems to be that this could be the beginning of the harvest, but it also could be this end section that I'm going to show you, and to me has some very, very, very strong language from multiple angles. We're gonna just finish this up. We're probably gonna have to come back and do another segment on all of the scriptural encoded messages. I just want to focus today on the last part of this scene. So we see the moon here on the 7th at the very end of the day coming into the Scorpio gate. And then let's go ahead and move forward. I'm going to just take it to an even time here. Makes it easier to see. So we're at the midnight hour on the 8th now. And now we're on the 9th. Now we're seeing the moon enter close to its dark phase. And it's in the Hupa section, which is between the legs of Ophiuchus. And then on the 10th, we see the moon in the arc. And if you haven't seen my previous videos about that, the arc is essentially the bow of Sagittarius. I don't know what just happened. So we see here that the moon is in the bow. Sorry about that, fam. My computer sometimes just does these crazy things. So what we're looking at here, let's get in closer to that, is the moon on the 10th at midnight in the bow. So here's the bow of Sagittarius, and it's connected to the temple. And the deck line of the boat is the entrance line of where the planets cross, and those areas are where we see the messages come in for the temple, because this area of the Golden Gate is where very, very strong messaging is happening, because there's multiple signs in Sagittarius that speak different language. So you have the arc, which is this very beginning section of Sagittarius. Let's try to get it at the right angle. So here is a good area to see. So you see that the bow is here, and this is basically looked at as a river in heaven, and we see the edge of the bow, or the boat, is right there on the waters. And this was always seen as a place of protection and the entry point into the heavens. And so we see the moon inside of the boat section, or the bow of Sagittarius. And if you've seen my last, it wasn't the last one, but it was the one before that. I think it was part 3 or part 4. It was talking about the Mars mission. Mars comes out of the Hupa on the 26th and then enters into the temple on the 11th. And to me, knowing the signs that I've seen over the last 4 years, this was powerful language of our Revelation 12, 7 through 9 that we're looking for to be completed. I proved with the signs in the heavens that Revelation 12:7 happened in 2020, and that was the beginning essentially of the war in heaven, and they have been battling ever since. I mean, you can see it here on the earth also. And so now what we're looking at is the final phase of that battle, because the language is speaking to us of that. And we showed you with all the asteroids, and we showed you with all of the codes that those asteroids have, that this is the language that we're seeing, that there's a war in heaven. And then on the 11th, we see Mars actually enters into the temple. Well, there's not going to be a war anymore if the warrior angel is actually entering into the temple. That seems like he has washed his hands, and now he's going to make atonement for what was done. And it looks to be perfect, because he seems to be the protector of this marriage, along with Mercury, and they're basically shielding everything that's happening in the heavens. So here we are on the 10th, and then we see the moon transition. Remember, the moon is the bride. Then we see on the 11th that the moon enters into the section where it's under the wings. And here on Stellarium, it shows it as a cape. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at this image really quick, because this image is a better depiction of Sagittarius than what we see in Stellarium. So I just want to bring this up for the body so they can see this is an ancient depiction of the Golden Gate. You can see all the stars and all the things here in the Golden Gate. And then this is the image of Sagittarius, and you see the wings. And so what we have here is a very good study that I did, is openbible.info. I'll put this link in the descriptions, but what I did is I went and looked up all the scriptures that have under his wings. And it's pretty amazing how much scripture is tied to this, what we call star language. So we could see it in Psalms. The one in Ruth really stood out for me. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Psalm 17:8, keep me as the apple of your eye, hide me in the shadow of your wings. And it goes on and on and on, family. There are so many scriptures. Here's Revelation 12:14. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness, to the place where it's prepared to be nourished for a time, and half a time. So now we can see this with Stellarium, because in the ancient times, let's scroll out just slightly, we have 2 eagle wing depictions that are right here in the gate language. So we have Aquila, and in ancient times, Lyra, this harp, was actually an eagle, and it was seen in 2 different manners. And so we have not only eagle's wings on Sagittarius, but all this language, Cygnus, Lyra, Aquila, are all winged creatures speaking more language into the story. And so what we have is the moon and the sun have completed their journeys. And one of the things that we're going to have to come back to, but I'm just going to leave it with this. We're going to finish up here. One of the things that made me believe that this is our final sign is in the Mazzaroth, there are 3 essential sections of the Mazzaroth, and they have 4 signs in them each. So the total is 12 signs. There's 4 signs broken up into 3 sections. And the first start is in the Virgo Libra transition, which is just after Spica, which is how I'm going to show you the years are determined. And then this area after Spica determines the beginning of the year. It's also in the Virgo constellation. So Virgo always starts the story, and it's Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius. And Sagittarius ends this first chapter. You have Scorpio, which is the sign of the death and burial of Christ. And then you have Sagittarius, which is the final redemption of the bride, the bride brought back into the temple. And so I had missed these signs, and I had believed that the 26th and 27th was going to be our final sign, and that we should see an escape close after that. But then I was reminded of my work in Kaddish culture, how the bride in all of the ancient Israelite stories was always brought to the bridegroom. And so now we see that the bride has finally made her way to her bridegroom, and we are here on the 11th of January, and this is the day that I have calculated for Hanukkah. And this is not using the moon. There are many people who are coming up with that day as the first sliver of the moon. That's not how I have this determination. This is based on the sun, moon, and stars. And so I'm going to have to come back and do that after we finish this entire breakdown of the Escape of the Bride Decode. So we're going to go ahead and finish here. The bride here on the 11th has made her way under the wings of Sagittarius. She has received her wings, and she's ready to fly. She is with her bridegroom in Sagittarius, the final chapter of the Escape of the Bride. Thanks for joining us, family.